Hey, Jake.
Hey,
What are you cutting there?
I am cutting a river.
A river.
A river for our very highly requested mountain inlay that has been behind us for, well, since we started sessions, really. Everyone asked for it. We're going to do a session on it today. It is now on Shaper Hub. We're going to tell you how to make it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just cut out one of the smaller details, the little river that runs through the inside.
Beautiful. While Jake's peeling that off, I'm just going to get us introduced here. I'm Russ. This is Jake. It's Thursday, so we're doing Shaper sessions. Yeah, we got a really cool one this week. Basically, the two different ways that you can make pictures with wood, Marquetry and Inlay. We're going to do this with Shaper Origin. This is really cool because you can do this on the top of a box. You could do this on your own standalone panel like we've done here with the mountain scene. And we've got a really cool video of an application that one of our favorite customers did toward the end of the show. His name's Ramon, and one of the projects that he's working on is a 43-inch wide and 78-inch tall door that he fully marquetryed using Shaper Origin. I don't know if that's exactly the correct use of that verb, but
Sounds
we're going to
wrong, but it
make
might
a
be
good
right. Who knows?
marquetryed with Origin.
It's a gorgeous feat of
Yeah.
craftsmanship, and to see it done with Origin is a really
Yeah.
awesome thing. We're really proud to see it.
So we're going to talk about Marquetry and Origin and Inlay with Origin a little bit here. We're going to cut the last remaining piece of this mountain scene that we've got. And then we're going to go show off Ramon's video. And then, last but not least, at the end of the show, we always do Q&A and giveaways. So if you're watching this live, we should have, I think, a poll that's going to pop up at the bottom of your screen. Add your first and last name in there, or your first name and some other identifying information at least. And we'll get you on the wheel that we spin toward the end of the show during Q&A. What are we giving away today, Jake?
Today we are doing a swag pack, which consists of a shop banner, small Shaper shop banner to rep Shaper with pride in your wood shop. We're doing a t-shirt. Oh, it also comes with a hat and some stickers and a swag pack. We're doing a Shaper shirt, and we are doing an 1/8-inch collet, which is particularly relevant to today's application. This kind of work, inlays and marquetry, that is why we decided to start selling the 1/8-inch collet, because it opens up a huge range of cutters out there that you can buy that get down to 32nd or smaller,
Yeah.
those really, really fine bits to get those fine details that you want typically when you're doing marquetry and inlay.
So we'll show you some of those really cool cutters in a minute. But also, during the show, please ask us questions. Write those questions in the comments. Our dude Ted, Shaper Support, is in the comments with us. He's going to keep track of all those questions and send them to us at the end of the show so that we can answer them live. And that's for our live viewers. If you're watching this on demand, please join us live next time so that you can get all that stuff. Now that the spiel is out of the way, let's talk about marquetry and inlay.
All right.
And can we get a close-up of this guy on the bench cam while we're at it? Yeah. Oh, it's too big. Pretty cool though.
This is something we did years ago, and I'm really excited to come back to it. It's a fun image because it's just a palette that you can really play with and do. It's up to you what species you want to choose, what grain orientation. I'm going to show off really how easy it is to orient each design and each picture to get that grain just right. And it's relatively forgiving. If a piece breaks because of grain direction or whatever it is, you can easily make another one. If anyone happened to catch our IG live this week, we talked about how we prep inlay material. I like to go around 1/8 of an inch thick. I know typically marquetry is done with super thin veneer. I'm going a little thicker, mainly because I like to use the double-sided tape that we sell and my workstation.
I'm going to interrupt you here, Jake, and holler out to Noah, who's on the switchboard. Noah, are we stuck on the bench cam?
There it is.
Hey, okay, we're back. We got Noah on the switchboard today. Goose injured his foot, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
we got Noah working the switchboard, and we're back, everybody. I'm falling asleep up there, but it's all right. Yeah, cool. So let's show the cutout of this little river piece.
Yeah. So, like I said, 1/8" thick material, all done on just by resawing on the bandsaw and using a thickness sander to kind of bring all the pieces to the same thickness. But this is a really great size to be able to put onto our workstation shelf. Now, if you can show off my shelf, Noah, you'll notice
That's a different shelf than we're used to.
that's a different shelf. It's larger, and that is because I'm working with larger panels of material, and I want to make sure everything is supported underneath. Now, I'm not putting anything heavy on this shelf. It's just origin and my material. So I'm not worried about deflection or anything like that. That's why we tend to stay away from having the shelf go too far out, is because you start getting, the shelf itself starts to move on you, and you don't want to put a ton of weight on it. So for applications like this, that's why we made it so versatile. You got that easy hole pattern. You can make a larger spoil board surface.
Yeah, and I'll just chime in here to say, if you missed our session 2 weeks ago on fixturing with Workstation, we showed a couple of really cool homemade, shop-made replacement shelves, some for clamping. One I think was larger like this. All those dimensions are both in the Workstation manual and then also published on Shaper Hub, which is your place to get digital files for things like this. So you could make a shelf just like this based on those digital templates. But we covered that 2 weeks ago, so we'll just carry on with this one.
Good call. And you can watch those on demand too.
Watch them on demand.
All right. Let's go through the process of getting this set up. Like I said, 1/8" thick material. I chose this particular piece because we have that sapwood that comes through, and I'm going to use that as kind of like the snow caps on the top of a mountain ridge. Well, so I think. We'll see how that actually turns out. But that's the beauty of it, is I can take that final piece that we're missing and position it just visually to line up with that grain. So what I'm going to start by doing is taking some double-sided tape. I have a general idea of where I want it. I know it's going to fall in this area, so I just want to make sure that there's plenty of double-sided tape behind that. Now, another tool that I will use after that is incredibly helpful when doing thin stuff like this is a flexible putty knife. So something like that. I typically take mine to the angle grinder and actually make it even sharper, because these little pieces that we're going to be cutting become really fragile, and I want to be able to work my way under there and pry them up safely without breaking any pieces. So it also makes taking tape off, shaper tape, double-sided tape off, a lot faster.
Yeah, very nice. And so we got one side of the tape down here, just peeling off the other layer of this, and then we're going to stick it down to the shelf. The cool thing that I like about this particular tape is that it's pressure sensitive.
Yep.
So you can move that around also a little bit as you are preparing your workpiece, getting it lined up on the shelf exactly where you want it to be. And yeah, then when you're ready to actually stick it down, you apply the pressure and it really holds it in place. And the more pressure you use, the firmer it sticks. So if we have a small piece, you might want to use a little extra pressure. Big piece, a little less pressure, and it'll come up a little bit easier when you're done.
Yep.
What did you just mark on there, Jake? I saw you busted out the pencil.
Yeah, so I just wanted to give myself an idea of where my double-sided tape is on the back so that I don't forget halfway down. And
There you
also, instead of, if I'm trying to be conservative with my double-sided tape usage, otherwise I would just cover the entire back of this. But no, I have tape between here and here.
Cool.
Now
I take it we're ready to scan.
we are ready to scan.
So this is the first step of pretty much any new setup with Origin. And what Jake's doing here is he's scanning back and forth, taking a series of pictures of his work area. And at the end of the scan, Origin is going to combine all those into one image that shows your entire workspace and allows you to line your design up with the portion of the grain that you intend to use, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's going to give me a nice image of that grain pattern. I can zoom out a little bit. Look at that. There's that sapwood line.
Oh, yeah, that's nice.
That I'm shooting for. Let's go ahead and bring in that final file. You can see all my files for this particular project are right here. So like I said earlier, if one breaks, I could just go ahead and grab it again and cut it. Or if I lose one, when you're doing a bunch of tiny parts, is very easy. All right, that last bit, and I'm going to do, let's see, what do we think?
Yeah, a nice little snowy ridge, I think. So I really like this one that you cut earlier. We can hold this in front of the origin cam. We got kind of a similar thing going here with the snowy ridge. And I like that a lot. So if we do that again, I bet that's going to look really good.
Let's see. I'm going to get just the right grain.
Just right.
I think I like that.
And that's the cool thing, I think, about Inlay and Marquetry, especially for smaller work like this. Maybe not the size of Ramon's door that he was working on. You have to plan out a bit more for that. But for smaller work, you can save those nicely figured scraps that you would otherwise throw away.
Yes.
These were made from small board offcuts, basically, the pieces that you're working with today, right?
Yeah, and anytime I see a board that has like particularly beautiful grain pattern, I might just set it aside and make at least one cut off of it so that I have that veneer, we'll call it 1/8" thick veneer, in my back pocket. So next time someone says, hey, I want to do an inlay project, I say, I have just the piece.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, let's talk about cutters. So we're working with thin material, we're not cutting very deep, and we also have those really fine details that we want to get. This file is made with a 1/16 of an inch cutter in mind. So every internal radius is such to fit a 1/16 of an inch.
Now let's show on the bench cam how absolutely small that is. This is a 1/16 of an inch diameter cutter with an 1/8 inch shank, and it's really tiny, really tiny. But the cool thing about this is that the smaller of a cutter you use, the sharper of corners you're able to get.
Yep.
And that's why it's important to keep track of what cutters you use for different projects. Now, what would happen, Jake, if we were to cut this with an 1/8 inch cutter?
It wouldn't allow me to get into those sharp little corners that we made. So you could still cut it, but when you go to fit everything together, you'd realize, oh, my outside corners are sharper than my inside corners I was able to cut.
Yeah, no good there.
I'll just show you what the bit I have in here right now looks like down on the workstation cam. That is a 1/4 inch shank to 1/16 inch straight flute cutter. So I did a couple of tests with down cutters and straight flute cutters. If you are doing more thin veneer work, a down cutter is going to be your friend. That means it's pushing force down instead of pulling it up like the standard cutters that come with Origin do. Nice part about that is that you're pulling material and dust out, and down cutters push it down. But when you're just doing a thin veneer cut, that's okay. I found for this kind of middle ground, which 1/8 of an inch thick, a straight flute cutter was giving me the best results. Still clogging up with dust, but it wasn't slowing me down or anything like that.
It's basically the middle of the road on that trade-off, right? The thicker you go, probably the more of an up spiral you want.
More material.
The thinner you go, the more of a down spiral you want. Less chance of dust clogging, better chance of keeping your material flat to the shelf. And it seems like an 1/8 inch here was just about that middle ground where you don't really want the up spiral, you don't really want the down spiral. Just a straight flute did pretty good.
Yep. The other thing to note is because this is normally in an inlay, I'm going to cut my positive piece to a 0 inch offset. So I'm going to cut that thing true to size. Then when I go to cut the pocket that it fits into, that's where I start adjusting my offset in the negative range, and I open that pocket up by a couple of thousandths of an inch. Because these are pieces that are all coming together, what I'm doing instead is that I'm applying kind of a universal negative offset of 2 thousandths. So it's negative 0.002 on the offset. So that way, everything kind of has just a little bit of wiggle room to come together.
Okay.
If we were to cut everything to 0, 0, the way things work, the way life happens, it would probably be too tight, and it would potentially leave a gap because you're running into too tight of areas somewhere and leaving other areas loose. So a universal negative offset is the way I've found to get kind of that nice fit in the end.
Great. Pro tips from Jake.
I'm also going to do this in one shot. I could do a rough pass, but I found with a steady hand and auto lock, I can cut this in one pass, and I don't have to come back and do a finished pass. It's thin enough material, and I've done this enough. But if you're feeling like you need to creep up on it, you can always give yourself a positive offset, do a rough cut, and then work your way into that final dimension.
Yeah, cool. So just for anybody who's joining us here, before you get into cutting, real quick, I just want to reintroduce ourselves. I'm Russ. This is Jake. And we are doing Marquetry and Inlay with Shaper Origin today. If you are just joining us, please write some questions in the comments. There's going to be a poll that pops up that will enter you into our giveaway that we do at the end with Q&A. And please, like, any questions that you pose, we will try to answer. So go crazy. People also a lot of the times will answer the comments in the comments, which I love. Getting
great.
that engagement from our viewers.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And yeah, so we have set up with this mountain inlay project that has been hanging on our Shaper Sessions set for years. We just finally got around to posting it on Shaper Hub, and we're doing a demo here of cutting an actual inlay piece with Origin. Cool. All right, enough of that. Let's get back to it.
All right. Before I dive into cut, I just think it's worth mentioning the fact that my cutting surface is just totally flush with my workstation surface. That's the reason, one of the many reasons why Workstation is just so incredible, because regardless of the thickness of this, I can match that height to the top of this. And if you don't know, Origin is happiest when everything is planar, coplanar. You know, your cut surface and your tape surface should be on the same plane. So this makes that quick and easy to adjust. All right.
So we've scanned, we've set our correct tool diameter, you've Z-touched so that Shaper Origin knows where the top plane of your work surface is, and we've set an offset, and now what are you doing? Are we getting ready to cut now?
I'm going to turn everything on, and I'm going to double tap my green button. That's going to put me into auto lock mode, which is essentially it's going to travel at a set speed, and I'm just going to follow along. Now there's a couple of steps to that following along process that I'll let you talk to everyone about as I'm going through. But that's how I'm going to start. So
okay, cool. Well, let's get to it. All right, I'm just going to step away here, and can we get Jake muted on the tool so that everyone can hear what I'm saying here? Yeah, okay. So what we're doing right now is Jake is cutting out this inlay piece with Origin, and as he mentioned, there are a couple different ways to cut with Origin, and those are the different auto modes. The standard way that I use Origin is with no auto mode. That's you press the green button, Origin plunges the tool into the workpiece, and it keeps up with you as you feed Origin along your cut path. A hybrid workflow is where you press the green button while you're cutting, and that goes into a temporary auto mode. And what auto mode does is it allows Origin to basically take over control of the feed rate or the feed speed of that cutter. So when you're going around a corner, for example, you can press that auto mode, hold Origin still, and the cutter will continue to feed around the corner. What that helps with is keeping stability in really tight angles or tight corners. And you may have noticed that on this inlay, there are a heck of a lot of tight corners. So what Jake's doing now is he's actually gone all the way into full auto. And what full auto does, to enter that mode, you press the green button twice when you go to cut, and that keeps you locked on auto for the entire duration of the cut. We call it full auto or auto lock. And so what Jake's doing here is he's on full auto. The tool is feeding by itself. Once it reaches the end of the compensation zone, it's going to slow down or pause so that you can catch up with it. And the way that I like to use auto and the way that I think Jake is using it today is we try and move on the straight portions and then again hold the tool a little more still around the corners to stabilize. So he's going around the corners and just holding the machine still and allowing Origin really to do the precision work for him. So that auto mode is just keeping everything going. So that's auto mode. Let's see, where are we at? Coming around the top here. Now there are a couple different things that you want to keep in mind with the feed rate and the cut depth when you're cutting here. And, oh, here we go. Looks like we're done.
Alright, if you look on the screen, you can see it's still totally packed up with dust, which is okay, because I know that it came out phenomenal. So a little dental tool is really helpful if you want to try to pick that dust out and then vacuum it up, but honestly, I'm going to peel this whole thing up anyways, so the dust is going to pop away. Slowly,
carefully.
Steady.
Ooh, very nice.
Isn't it satisfying?
Wow.
Alright.
And that's the difference between the straight cutter and the up spiral cutter there.
Yeah.
Is that the up spiral cutter tends to extract that dust a little better.
It does.
The straight cutter leaves it in the slot that you
Exactly.
want behind.
And this is where that flexible putty knife is going to come in handy. With that sharp edge, it allows me to kind of wiggle my way underneath these delicate areas and then just twist on it and be really patient. And then come over here, wiggle underneath, twist.
Let the tool do the work, as they say. Don't force it.
It's funny, as you twist, you can hear that double-sided tape.
It's like slowly releasing. I can hear it from here.
Slowly releasing. Come back down here. Be really careful too. If you do take your flexible putty knife to the grinder, just be really mindful of what direction you're scraping, because it'll get you.
Mm-hmm.
Say that from experience.
Very nice.
All right.
Let's get all that tape off there and do a test fit.
I always tend to go a little overboard with the double-sided tape on sessions, because the last thing I want is for something to come loose while I'm cutting live. But it's also, I don't know exactly where I'm going to place something. I have a general idea.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Give a quick pass with a sanding sponge just to knock any fuzzies away. Right on. Okay. Cool. That's good enough for this. So there we go. That's that final piece ready to fit in. And am I missing a couple pieces? Ah, yes, there's a. We can snap this guy into place. I mean snap. We have the little river. goes right here.
And that's what's nice about those offsets, just being able to tune your fit.
And there's that last piece. This is when things get a little tense. There it is.
Beautiful.
All right, little fudging here and there, but that's the kind of fit we're going for.
That's an inlay. That looks good.
There you go.
Or a market. What is the singular noun version of marquetry?
Hey, good question. A marquette?
Yeah. Okay.
A marquette.
Yeah, we'll go with that. We
That
got a
feels right.
marquette right here. Cool. Yeah. And so now, what would be the next steps here, Jake?
So next steps, I would definitely try to bring all those joints in with maybe some painter's tape. Just kind of like pull it into its final resting space, putting a little glue in between. But honestly, the whole thing is going to go into a vacuum bag to glue it down to its like backing board, just substrates to give it a little bit more rigidity.
Yeah.
I did that one without a vacuum bag. We just happen to have a vacuum bag now by just putting a piece of something flat, another piece of plywood on top, and something really heavy.
Cool.
That was enough.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
So so that is our small bit of marquetry. Now I would love to show you all a cool, bigger bit of marquetry. Our buddy Ramon, who's a Shaper customer, actually sent us this really cool video. We mentioned to you earlier about his 78 by 43 inch door that he's working on. Well, I think the video that he sent was a test piece for that, right? It's a little bit smaller. It's not the full door.
It's a sneak peek into
Sneak peek into Ramon's production process and Ramon's marquetry process. And we actually have, I got word from Noah on the switchboard that we've got Ramon in the chat right now. So ask us questions, but this is an incredible opportunity to also ask Ramon questions, and hopefully he'll be a little active in the comments section there. And before we get into the video, just one more note on the poll, please. There's going to be a poll at the bottom of your screen. Stick around to the end of the show where we do live Q&A and a giveaway. And if you want to be entered into that giveaway, answer the questions in the poll and we'll get you on the wheel that we spin. So if you're not on the wheel, you don't get to be part of the giveaway. So do that, please, because we want to give you stuff.
Yeah,
we're doing
exactly.
a swag pack, hat, and a shirt. Oh, the hat is in the swag pack.
Yeah.
The swag pack's a great deal. We're doing a swag pack, a shirt, and an 1/8 inch collet, which is awesome for Inlay. So without further ado, let's show you this sweet video from Ramon that's a little bit about his process and how he uses Shaper Origin to do marquetry, and just a little bit about his work.
So I've been working on a little project now as time permits that involves the Shaper and 1/42 of an inch veneer, or raw veneer, commercial veneer as they call it. And after talking with the guys from Shaper, starting to figure out some of the parameters, here I'm going 36 thousandths deep. I'm on the outside of the cut, negative 2 thousandths offset using a 1/16 downcut spiral. Man, and I got to tell you, Sean and Eric with Shaper were absolutely instrumental in helping me figure some of this stuff out. Super patient, extremely helpful. I learned a ton. I think we all learned a ton on how to utilize the Shaper when working with such thin material like veneer. So I started by creating a drawing. This is just on 9 by 11 paper, but it is to scale because this project is big. It's like 45 by 80. They create an SVG file, right? Or rather a series of files. Making fantastic progress. Getting ready to do this file number 5, which consists of several pieces. This one, 5, there's a piece right in there, several pieces here, one right in there, number 5, purple. And yeah, loving it. That is awesome. So now this dude will be going in here like so. Progress. All right, check it out. So I lost this piece, and this line here, so this is like ground level. It's going to go in last, and then I was going to put that piece in. Anyway, I looked for it for a while, couldn't find it. No big shake. What I can do is I've got some more purple over here, and this piece with the tape on it here, it's actually upside down because I want to grab, that's the piece I need, or that's the piece that I had. I want it to match with the grain, so I'm just going to cut it out right in this area. And so it was just easier for me to put it upside down and not mess with this tape. The machine is reading that tape at the workstation, and you can see I started to cut it here, but I'm just going to cut another one. And what's cool is I can put this file in, flip it 180 degrees so it's upside down, and boom, I'll cut that piece out right there. How cool is that? All right, here's that piece right from the shaper straight away, and see how that fits. Man, how amazing is that? And not that it matters a whole lot, but you can see this kind of coarse grain running through here. It's going to match up with that. And so I'll marry this piece first, and I'll insert this piece last. And more than likely, as soon as I get that piece inserted, I'll find the other one. Let's see if this makes sense. So this is tree 3 and this is sky 3. You can see that this little area here will marry with the sky area there. And so this is fall off. I've labeled it sky fall off so that I can use this for all the little pieces that go in this area, and I can keep that grain going straight across so it'll be more cohesive and harmonious. Yeah. When we first started, I let the guys at Shaper know that the ground and the trees would be in silhouette, and the rest of the hills, mountains, horizon, and sky would gradiate from dark to light. And here's the finished Marquetry motif, all created with the Shaper origin. This will ultimately be a large barn door, 52 by 90 with a dark cherry frame. And here's where it really pops with a couple of seal coats and top coated with lacquer.
Man, how cool is that? So
So cool.
we do a lot of woodworking here, but man, Ramon is really the expert on this stuff. So thank you so much, Ramon, for sharing that. And I want to plug his Instagram. That's Ramon Artful, at Ramon Artful, where he shares tips like this and all kinds of other stuff. I watched a cool one on like tuning your bandsaw and getting really good veneers out of the bandsaw.
Nice.
Which is also useful for this process if you're doing thicker veneer like this 1/8 inch that we used. And of course, please, I think Ramon's in the comments and in the chat, so hit up Ramon in the chat and hopefully he'll answer some questions for you all. And I heard some rumblings. We're going to talk about this a little bit, but not too much. That Ramon is working with us on a Marquetry and Inlay Shaper Hub project. Not too dissimilar from this one, but with his own flavor.
I say better.
Ooh.
Generally better.
Generally better. I like the sound of that. So make sure to keep an eye on Shaper Hub, which is your spot for woodworking projects and also learning. Like, I know Ramon is going to share some really good tips in that project. And he's putting out a video in a couple weeks as well, a bigger video on that large barn door that he's working on. So I know that I'm going to be keeping an eye out for that. And thank you again, Ramon. Thank you, everybody. It's been a fun one, and we'll see you next time.